Something just happened in the global AI race that almost no one noticed. The United States may be preparing to choke off the very chips that powered China's artificial intelligence boom. Not with a total ban, not with dramatic headlines, but with something far more subtle, a quiet numerical limit that could change the balance of technological power. And the most surprising part? Almost no one is talking about the detail that makes this move so powerful. Because the real story is not just about restricting chips, it's about controlling the scale of artificial intelligence itself. And when you look closely at what is actually being proposed, the implications are far bigger than they first appear. According to reporting from Bloomberg, the Trump administration has been considering a new restriction on one of the most important pieces of hardware in the modern technology industry, Nvidia's H200 artificial intelligence chip. These chips are not ordinary computer processors. They are specialized accelerators designed to train and operate large-scale AI systems, the kind used by companies building advanced language models, recommendation systems, and massive data platforms. Without these chips, the modern AI industry simply cannot function at scale. And that is exactly where the new restriction comes in. The proposal under discussion would limit Chinese companies to purchasing a maximum of 75,000 Nvidia H200 chips per buyer. At first glance, that number may sound large, but in the world of artificial intelligence infrastructure, it is not. Training and running advanced AI models requires enormous clusters of chips operating together in massive data centers. Leading technology companies often deploy tens of thousands of GPUs in a single facility. Some of the largest AI training clusters now involve well over 100,000 processors working simultaneously. In that context, a limit of 75,000 chips per buyer becomes something very different. It becomes a ceiling on how large an AI system a company can build, a ceiling on how fast that system can be trained, and ultimately, a ceiling on how quickly artificial intelligence can evolve. But the restriction does not stop with Nvidia. The proposal would also include AMD's MI325 chips, another type of high-performance processor used for AI training and inference. In other words, the quota would apply not just to one manufacturer, but to the entire class of advanced AI accelerators coming from the United States. And that changes the scale of the policy dramatically, because these chips represent the backbone of the global AI hardware supply chain. The United States currently dominates this sector. Nvidia alone controls a massive share of the high-end AI chip market, and many of the most powerful systems used around the world rely on its architecture. So when Washington adjusts export rules around these chips, it is not simply regulating a commercial product, it is shaping the physical infrastructure of artificial intelligence worldwide. Interestingly, the proposal would not completely shut China out of this supply chain. The total number of chips allowed to be exported to China could still reach as many as 1 million units overall, a cap that had already been discussed during the regulatory process under the Trump administration. But here is the critical detail that often gets overlooked. The real restriction is not the total number of chips entering the country, it is the per-company limit. 75,000 chips per buyer. And according to people familiar with the discussions, that number is significantly lower than what some Chinese companies actually want. Major Chinese technology firms, including giants such as Alibaba and ByteDance, have reportedly expressed interest in purchasing far larger quantities. These companies operate enormous cloud computing platforms and run advanced artificial intelligence research programs. Their demand for AI hardware is massive. For organizations operating at that scale, 75,000 chips may not be enough to build the kinds of AI clusters required to compete with the largest systems being developed in the United States. And that is where the strategic implications start to become clear. Artificial intelligence today is not just about algorithms, it is about infrastructure. The companies that dominate AI development are not simply writing better software, they are building enormous computing environments capable of processing vast amounts of data at extraordinary speeds. Those environments require massive quantities of specialized chips, which means access to hardware determines who can compete and who cannot. By placing a limit on the number of chips any single Chinese company can purchase, the United States may effectively be limiting how large Chinese AI systems can grow, not stopping them completely, but slowing them down. Over the past several years, Washington has steadily tightened export controls on advanced semiconductor technology destined for Chinese firms. These measures are designed to prevent the most powerful computing hardware from being used in ways that could enhance Chinese military capabilities or accelerate strategic technologies that could challenge American dominance. But the debate inside the United States has not been simple. Some policymakers argue that restricting chip exports too aggressively could backfire by encouraging Chinese companies to develop their own domestic alternatives faster. Others believe that strict limits are necessary to preserve the United States' advantage in critical technologies, such as artificial intelligence and advanced computing. The discussion around the H200 chip limit reflects this broader tension. Will limits like these actually slow China's progress in artificial intelligence? The answer is not straightforward. China has enormous technological capacity, a vast domestic market, and strong government support for strategic industries. Even with restrictions, Chinese companies will continue developing AI systems and exploring new architectures. But hardware constraints can influence the pace of innovation. And in a race where technological leadership carries economic, military, and geopolitical implications, even small shifts in pace can matter. The real story here is not simply about 75,000 chips. It is about who controls the infrastructure of intelligence in the 21st century. Artificial intelligence is becoming the engine behind everything from finance and logistics to healthcare and national defense. And the countries that dominate AI development will likely shape the future of global power.